Former President Donald Trump has been indicted on criminal charges. That news is without precedent in United States history. Fox's Doug Luzader joins us live from Washington with more. Good morning to you, Doug.
Good morning. Yeah, we're kind of in some uncertain territory here. We know how this would play out for a normal person, but this, of course, is a former president who is about to be or has been indicted by this grand jury, and he will head to New York, we think, next week to face the consequences.
The Trump supporters showed up last night outside the former president's Mar-a-Lago home.
It's terrible. It's ruining our country.
And Trump is also infuriated, writing on his Truth Social platform, "This is an attack on our country, the likes of which has never been seen before." Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg left his New York office yesterday without talking, but he had just convinced a grand jury to indict Trump over a hush money payment made to former adult film star Stormy Daniels. In a statement, he said, "This evening we contacted Mr. Trump's attorney to coordinate his surrender to the Manhattan DA's office. And Trump's legal team will now negotiate the terms of that surrender, which will include a mugshot, and they're expressing confidence."
There is no crime. I know the facts, I know the law, and I really want to see where this is going to go.
Now, prosecutors do have their work cut out for them. They're expected to elevate a business records charge from a misdemeanor to a felony by arguing Trump violated campaign finance laws. Many legal experts are very dubious, but there are other pending cases against Trump, and the prospect of a conviction could add a strange new wrinkle to Trump's campaign.
The election could come down to how people feel about a self-pardon. Donald Trump could run in part on saying, I'm going to pardon myself and go after the deep state.
Now, the current president, President Biden, was asked about this indictment this morning, saying that he had no comment about it, perhaps not surprisingly. One thing to keep in mind, it's a lot easier to get an indictment from a grand jury than it is to get a conviction from an actual jury. So this is just one step in the process, but it's a big one. And next week is going to be a very interesting time for the history of this country.
Without question. And Doug, we expect to see a mugshot or something like that plastered all over the place. Legally, first of all, Doug, do we anticipate this to go anywhere in terms of anything other than having it dismissed? Maybe not the first court, but an appellate court or even higher than that.
Yeah, Ryan, a lot of legal experts just see this as the weakest of the cases that are have been brewing against the former president. So it's certainly possible. Look, one thing you got to keep in mind is the New York jury pool. The city of New York jury pool is probably not going to be filled with Trump supporters. So let's stipulate that. So even if there's a conviction at that level, it might not hold up on appeal. We'll see. But look, that's a very lengthy process. And at the same time, he's going to be running for president. Now, for a normal candidate, you would say, well, this is just the end of things. But the former president kind of operates at sort of a different orbit on these things. And we've seen his numbers actually tick up a little bit among Republicans in the run-up to this indictment.
Doug, I wanted to ask you about that quickly, and I know I'm running out of time, but we see these numbers for Trump rise. What happens politically with Ron DeSantis, who was thought to be his biggest challenger? Does he look at this and say, you know what, I'm going to hold off for another 4 years because Trump's popularity does seem to rise with this? Or does he jump in anyway?
There's been some talk about that because as Trump's numbers have risen recently, DeSantis' numbers have come down. He's a young guy. He could certainly position himself to run next time around. It is interesting to note that he has inserted himself into this to some degree, putting out a statement that he thinks this is a political prosecution, saying that he would not cooperate in any extradition effort to get Trump out of Florida to force him to go to New York. Now, by all indications, Trump's going to go to New York next week to face these charges. But if it became a question of extradition, the governor of Florida will not support that move.
All right, Doug Luzader live for us in Washington this morning. Thank you, Doug.